Hi there, my name is Phixfox and welcome back to Phixfox Shoutcasts. This is the series where you take the time to play FHeroes2. You submit to me the video of that playthrough, and then I get to watch it, to commentate on it, to maybe provide some insight, and then ultimately I get to hype you up. And I love this series. Today is going to be episode 3 featuring Apo. I know Apo from the FHeroes2 server, and it's not uncommon to see on the pull requests from the GitHub because, of course, FHeroes2 is a project that's continually in progress. It's not uncommon to see pull requests from the GitHub where changes are made as the game is being developed, done by Apo, very involved in the FHeroes2 server, does an excellent job in providing commentary, feedback, and discussing the game and the state of the game and making some pretty critical changes. I think that he's got a very good presence on the FHeroes2 Discord. If you've never been to the FHeroes2 Discord, I highly recommend just checking it out. I mean, I could totally look right now. Maybe one day I'll do a little bit of a streamer view as far as what you can see on the FHeroes2 server. It's all public. There's no special invite required, but I would recommend you checking that out at some point because there's lots of wonderful people there who love Heroes of Might and Magic 2. But I digress. Today is going to be the playthrough of Apo, and this is going to be a pretty interesting playthrough, I believe. This is going to be, according to my understanding, King of Death on impossible difficulty. Now, there's 2 separate videos that are submitted with this. We're going to do both of them, but what we're getting into, I'm not quite sure. So, with that being said, it's time that we just dive right in and go from here. So starting off, it looks like we're going into, it looks like it's going to be a small map, King of Death. It looks like it's a 3-person player. We're going to start off as a green player, and we are deciding that we are going to be the barbarians. And so we are starting in the upper right corner. We have Jezebel as our main hero with 22 goblins to start off with. And it looks like fairly good amount of resources nearby. We immediately start off from our castle, no major troops being taken at this time. In both instances, we are taking the gold. Of course, on impossible difficulty, you start off with no resources, and so getting that early income, any early gold can help you a lot. Plus 10 wood, that is fantastic. What a nice round number to start off with. With the 10 wood, you can build a lot of those buildings that otherwise you might not be able to. Now, also picking up 3,000 gold, that's going to mean that that's going to be a secondary hero for us on day 1. This is going to be Jaclyn, and it looks like immediately we're clicking on these rogues. Are we thinking about fighting rogues this early? I don't see any problem with that. I would definitely want to combine the troops, though, from these 2 armies in order to press forward. It looks like we're taking a look at what we could buy here for this final day, maybe trying to decide, are we going to be able to get some troops on day 2 that will help us take these fights and do very, very well? That's always the question. That's something to consider. Looks like all the troops are going to go with Jaclyn, 1 goblin there on Jezebel, and then single stacks. Interesting, I like to see that the single stacks of goblins are actually closer to the orcs. Interesting kind of how you can do that to make the fight go better. Where you place your troops matters so very, very much in Heroes of Might and Magic 2, and it's one of the many reasons why Heroes of Might and Magic 2 is a huge upgrade over Heroes of Might and Magic 1 as far as the strategic advantages go. We here have Apo counting the steps of that lead rogue. Of course, nobody wants to take damage from that lead rogue, knowing that rogues do have no retaliation. 5 rogues do attack the big stack of the goblins. There's nothing you really could have done about that as far as I'm aware. It looks like that's just kind of what you got to do to deal with things. Interesting. 45 goblins attacks the small stack of rogues. That's going to be 5 rogues going down to 6 on one of those other stacks. Man, your goblins are taking an absolute beating, but you are going to save the orcs. Interesting, though, because whereas the rangers and the archers for the knight might the knight class of might heroes goes, the archers are very offensively oriented, whereas I feel like the orcs are much more defensively oriented. They can actually take a hit a little bit better than some of these other troops can. Otherwise, though, it's always nice to make sure that you are going to keep your ranged troops. 45 goblins or so down to 24. We took some heavy losses there, but we did clear through those rogues, and now we are not too far away from our sawmill. Of course, the ore and the wood are going to be critically important for the barbarians, and in fact, until you get into your 6th level dwelling or any kind of mage guilds, you do not really need much other resources that are the rare type of resources. The primary resources of wood and ore are what you're going to need, and so I would love to see if we can find an early ore mine. There is the early ore mine. Interesting that you have to go through some creatures to get your sawmill, but not so to get your ore. Very interesting. And we do see already a sulfur mine. We do see an ore mine as well. I'm wondering if those on this very small map are meant to be shared by those other players that we are up against. Of course, there are 2 other players that we are here facing. There are some more rogues to our immediate west of our starting castle. If we can take those rogues out, it looks like there will be a huge boon to us. Not to mention, if we do want to spec into some kind of magic with the Mage Guild, there is a witch's hut to the south. +1 knowledge can go a long, long way for the barbarians, as can the +1 spell power. Looking at this, it looks like we're going to opt not to get the Adobe at this time. We're going straight for the wolves. Wolves, of course, are a 6-speed creature, and they're highly offensively geared. In fact, I think that the wolves would probably do a better job of dealing with rogues to protect the rest of the army, whereas ogres would be probably better at taking a little bit of the hits and trying to make sure that you can brute force your victory there. Jezebel is looking at perhaps joining up with Jaclyn. Jaclyn has not taken any experience. She has taken nothing but the gold. What are we thinking here? This double hero tandem is going to be pretty useful. I'm wondering if we're going to use Jezebel to simply ferry troops from the main castle into Jaclyn as Jaclyn goes to war. We do pick up the Adobe. Now, this is always an interesting decision. Do you pick up the ogres, knowing that upgrading them to ogre lords is going to be so very expensive, or do you instead get the ogres now, knowing that you're never going to upgrade them, or as a third option, do you simply wait? Do you simply not purchase them at all and forego that early firepower? It looks like we are going to be picking up a few troops here. A little bit of indecision, perhaps. Again, 5 wolves, 4 ogres are available with 4,800 gold, 16 wood, 0 sulfur, 0 crystal, 0 mercury, 9 ore, and 3 gems. The world is your oyster. What do you want to do at this current juncture? I'm not too sure if the enemy is going to come upon our hero very, very quickly or not. And it looks like perhaps we are going to be leaving some troops behind. What the exact reasoning is, I can't possibly say. There are multiple reasons why you would want to leave the ogres behind. I do think that this army can deal with these rogues. It looks like it's going to be about, call it 37 rogues that we're going to have to fight here. Again, single stacks of the goblins are going to be close to the orcs. That should prevent some losses there. And the rogues will not get any good type of morale, and the 6-speed wolves will get to go in short order. Let's see where we go with the wolves. Are the wolves simply going to take an absolute beating from all these rogues? I fear that at this point, there's not much you can do about it. I think that that's just kind of the reality of the situation. Rogues, of course, call it death by 1,000 paper cuts. They may not be the strongest creatures, but if you are unable to effectively deal with them in a brute force kind of a manner, they are going to cause a whole ton of damage to you, and you are going to struggle. Interesting choice to bring the wolves off. It will allow 1 less whole stack of rogues to attack you at this point. As you can see, that 10 stack of rogues in the middle, they did not go up to the goblins or down to the wolves. And yet, again, wolves are more of a highly offensively geared type of creature. They have the 6 attack and the 2 defense. Anytime you have a 2 defense creature, you're saying to yourselves, boy, if I can avoid having you get hit, I would sure like to. Single stacks of goblins do not need to attack in this instance. All they will do is die on the retaliation. Instead, the 13 goblins will attack. That looks like that's going to be 11 goblins and 2 wolves lost. Not too bad. Unfortunately, one of the many artifacts that is present here is the Spade of Necromancy. Not a great artifact if you are anything but the undead. The undead we are not. However, 3 treasure chests, not to mention gold, sulfur, and ore, on top of the Pendant of Holiness that will help you with your curse spells. So, where we go from here, though, is a little bit of a question. We've got our sawmill. We've got our ore mine. We are looking to plunder these resources. Probably it looks like it's going to be Jezebel as the secondary hero picking up these resources. But where we go from here, difficult to say. And we do see at the very bottom left of the screen, to the southwest along the road, we do see some enemy activity. What are we to expect there? I'm not quite sure, but I wonder if Apo knows because he has played this map before. I'm guessing that he does. We had about 5,000 gold. We're down to 3,900 gold. We do buy the Orc Chieftain, so the upgraded Orc unit is now on the board. An excellent unit. I'm a huge fan of them. I don't know if I would have preferred to have ogres or ogre lords. If we are going to come across a major fight right now, ogres might be important regardless of whether they are upgraded or not. It'll be tough to say, it'll be tough to see, because of course the upgraded Adobe is very expensive at 4,000 gold, and that can be the difference between picking up those troops and not. However, we do have a little bit of a bonus here. On these very small maps, oftentimes you have a major choice. Do we fight early? Do we try and surprise the enemy and rush into them? Or do we sit back and try and build up? It looks like we are doing more of a slow build type of situation. I'll tell you what though, I see a couple of opportunities. There is this tree city right next to this red hero that has appeared on our screen. That is going to be Zam the Necromancer. Zam has got a really ragtag type of army. As we pick up the Ogre Lords here and pull them into our army, I would love to see perhaps getting the single stack goblin into the major stack and then picking up with whatever gold remains, making sure that we pick up those sprites so that we can take this fight even better. That could potentially help us deal with those halflings. Lots of halflings with a ranged flyer might be very useful. I hope I said that correctly. It was Zam, not Zom. Zom is the blue necromancer, Zam is the purple necromancer. It looks like the enemy will flee regardless of this result. So it's going to be 20 halflings, 11 skeletons, 5 mummies, 8 dwarves, and 9 zombies against our hero here, who's going to be Jaclyn, with her 12 orc chiefs, the 4 ogre lords, and the 3 wolves, not to mention 15 goblins in 2 separate stacks. So a lot of these troops are going to be very, very slow. What a fortuitous circumstances. The halflings skipped their turn. The 3-speed halflings are going to go last, but they were going to go yet before our orc chiefs. That could have been a little bit of damage that they put down on us. Of course, you never know what you're going to get with halflings. They do a max of 3 damage and a minimum of 1 damage. They could do an awful lot. They could do a whole lot of nothing. And in that case, if you get no morale or if you get bad morale, you are definitely going to get a whole lot of nothing. Skeletons go down. The mummies are engaged in combat with those ogre lords. Ogre lords should be able to hold their ground and do very, very well. I doubt that we're going to see a single ogre lord go down in this fight. And we have seen in this instance thus far 2 hastes from the necromancer. Of course, haste is the spell that necromancers start off with in their spell book. I'm very, very excited to see that for this reason. Anytime that a barbarian or a might-based hero has to go up against a spellcaster, it's always a little bit scary to try and determine, okay, am I going to be going up against a blind? Am I going to be going up against a cold ray, a lightning bolt, etc.? It looks like Apo is trying to decide where his damage is going to be best suited, probably checking how much damage remains on the top stack of creatures. In both of those instances, it looked like 2 mummies was a good use of the orc chieftain's time. Now, because the dwarves are so slow, because the zombies are so slow, even when hasted, I think that it's open season for Apo's troops to engage with these enemy creatures and not stay back in this defensive position. Of course, they absolutely could stay in a defensive position. When you have 12 orc chiefs, of course, they are the power in this game, but at some point, it's always going to come down to a brawl and much less of an instance where you just shoot the enemies down or have some kind of ranged combat. On the one hand, the halflings get poor morale, and on the other, your orc chiefs are getting good morale. Already, the morale has been a massive, massive boon to our hero here. Of course, when the enemy has troops of 3 different alignments, that's going to be -1 morale. Not to mention, if you have undead in the group, that's going to be 1 less morale on top of that. I believe that the losses are looking so much better already. So much better already for Apo. I think that he should be happy with the way that he's fighting this fight. We'll have to get him on the post-game commentary to see how he likes this fight, but this could be a very telling decision, a very telling fight as far as things go down as 1 orc chief goes down. You know, if you can defeat one of your enemies, if you could take out one of their powerful heroes in the very beginning, you are feeling great about this. There's just a few of these zombies remaining. They did take out one of your orcs. It looks like we're going to opt to not risk potentially losing 1 more orc chief. Keeping those ranged troops alive, that might be one of the best things you could possibly do. And the wolves are going to fight, lose 1 on the retaliation, and ultimately the enemy is going to run. So ultimately we have a pretty good army left over standing. Major losses, 1 orc chief, 1 of the ogre lords, and then 1 of the wolves, not to mention a fistful of the goblins. Now, what to expect from here? Very difficult to say. It looks like we are ignoring the artifact that will help us cast our bless spells at a better rate. Understandable, knowing that you don't have a mage guild and you're not going to be casting any spells. That's very understandable to me. Real quick, let's take a just very, very quick pause here and try and guess what we're going to expect from here on out. What I would like to see, I believe personally, is this. I would like to see us head down the road as far and as fast as we can, just to try and figure out in this direction. I never went to announcer school, and so they never taught me how not to make a penis when I do We're keeping this in the video. We're keeping this in the video. They never taught me not to make a phallic whatever when you are drawing on the whiteboard. I sincerely apologize. But obviously, we want to go down this road as much as possible, I would think, if for no other reason than the enemy knows where we are at. But we know very, very little about the enemy. Perhaps that could be something that could be useful just to, number one, see enemies come our way, and number two, know where there might be some opportunities for us. If you can see the enemy's castle, maybe you can determine that, hey, they are weak right now, and I am strong, and that should be the time that I should press my advantage. So let's continue. And it looks like we are kind of heading in that direction. I did not expect a castle to be right here. This is going to be the Necromancer Castle for Red. Of course, Red Necromancer, that is the majority of the troops that we just defeated on that Necromancer hero. Will we be able to take this castle? Should we take this castle? I'm not sure what the difficulty designation of this map is. Is this map designated as a easy, medium, or hard map? I don't know, but this Red Castle is left undefended. Now, will it be in one day? I'm not sure. Will the enemies beef it up? Will they buy some troops, and will that spell out some doom? I don't know. 11 Orc Chiefs, I cannot... 11 Orc Chiefs, I don't know if they're going to be able to do a whole ton. Oh my goodness, what are you doing? Not you, Appo. I mean, look at this red hero. Red hero with bone dragons has walked right by us. They are like a shark that could tear you apart at any moment, but they choose not to because you're just small potatoes. That is terrifying. Who is that hero? We clicked on them for just 1 second. For a second, I thought it was Sandro, and yet it can't be Sandro because it's a knight hero. Unless, perhaps, I've never played this scenario before, so I'm not actually sure. Is this Sandro portrait? Sandro the Necromancer the portrait, and yet he is a knight? I don't know. That could be possible. I could have swore I saw Sandro when we right-clicked very, very briefly, and we saw those troops there. It looks like we are potentially abandoning our barbarian castle here, which I think is actually a tremendous decision. There comes a point where in Heroes of Might and Magic 2, you do not want to, at any point, try and slug it out with the hero. You are Cinderella, and the enemy is, you know, okay, you are David, and the enemy is Goliath, right? And at some point, the clock is going to strike 12, and you got to hope that you are able to get what you can get before things go bad for you. What is going on here? Okay, pause. I am not sure what's going on here for this reason. We did not opt to attack that Necromancer Castle. We chose not to take that. I thought that we would potentially swap castles because the Necromancer Castle, it potentially is much better than the Barbarians. And even if you just take it really quickly there on day one before they're able to get a lot of troops, that could still be useful for you. However, perhaps if we know that there's bone dragons on the map, maybe the ticket, maybe the trick is that we got to get that other Necromancy Castle that has bone dragons. If that's what we're doing, then that makes a lot of sense. But for somebody who's never seen this map be played before, that is highly unintuitive. Where this is going to go, I am not too sure. I'm sad to see Thundax simply sitting here. Is he just playing bait? Is it his job to keep that other hero occupied? 6 days left. Not picking up experience. Running right by the experience, running right by the resources, right into Charity, the Necromancer. Looks like she's got some first, second, and third level creatures on her at the moment. Not fighting her. Is she has full movement. She is not trolling. And there's so many resources here. A lot of these maps were originally made with the different AI in mind, the AI that would simply soak up all the nearby resources. FHeroes2 AI does a good job, a better job, I would say, of trying to be choosy about what it spends its logistical movement points on. We have found this red castle to the bottom south, this Necromancer Castle in the southwest, and it looks like we are preparing to assault this. And I do not think that we will be dissuaded. Oh no, heartbreak. Absolute heartbreak. Your forces suffer a bitter defeat. Jaclyn abandons your cause. Of course, we must at least try 4 bone dragons, 14 vampire lords, 25 royal mummies, 5 power liches, and a fistful of those mutant zombies. I don't think that you have any reason to fight that fight. I sincerely agree. So that is going to be the end of this first run. Wow. Devastation. Devastation. Okay. So with that being said, there is a second playthrough. And I think that, you know, what we're going to get I'm not too sure. Both playthroughs look to be a little bit shorter than some of our other playthroughs have been, and that's actually good. I like that people understand that, hey, you don't have to just show me your victories. We're here to show every little bit of it. We've all had ups, we've all had downs, and on impossible difficulty, this looks to be a very, very difficult map. I'm actually very, very excited to see what adjustments Apo makes here for this second scenario. So let's get that loaded up right now. So then we are back in for this second scenario here. Looks like we are just going to, I'm just going to hit fast forward just a little bit here. This up to the actual point of play. Looks like we are starting off as green again, not as blue. Once again, as barbarians. This time it's going to be Tsabu, the barbarian, picking up gold, picking up ore, and 2,000 gold. You know what? The variance that you find in these maps, it could be very, very huge from playthrough to playthrough. And getting even an additional 500 or 1,000 gold per playthrough could be absolutely massive. And so there's a lot of opportunity for things to be different. Not only that, we've also seen that instead of rogues to defeat, we have goblins. That's going to be a much easier fight, in my opinion. And to the north, though, we have halflings. That might be a much more difficult fight for a hero that does not have any ranged or excuse me, any flying troops. Although there are those sprites in that treehouse. I would love to see the use of sprites here, but then again, maybe the cost in the gold, maybe there's more to be done there. Looks like that is 8 orcs and 38 goblins remaining after we take out those other goblins. There were some minor losses there. Understandable, we didn't even need to fight that fight. We say to ourselves, no, we know that we should win that, and that's maybe about the best we can do. Ignoring the sulfur on the ground, instead maybe going for that sulfur mine, but then perhaps turning back immediately. Once again, barbarians don't really have much need for those precious resources, and oh my word, we have Roxana. Looks like she does have her mummies. Very reminiscent of the previous fight. This time, instead of a necromancer town that apparently was turned into a castle, we have another barbarian town. So again, one of those examples of variance from map to map. It looks like perhaps in playthrough 1, Apo was doing me a very huge service, and he was waiting and allowing me to kind of catch up so I could do my announcing in a more slow, even keeled manner. And now the gloves are off and he is pressing forward in a major way. So while we have taken that one barbarian town, I think that this is going to be an immediate loss. Craghack the barbarian, it feels so bad to throw away 2,500 gold. Although having a little bit of advanced knowledge of when red is going to come into your town, that could be useful. We are immediately getting the orc chieftains. Nice to see that upgrade. With only 3 wood though, only 3 wood, I think that the upgraded adobe is going to be pretty far out of reach unless we go through those halflings to the immediate west. Those halflings do have a 1 pile of wood behind them. That might be enough to bridge the difference between ogre lords and not. Again, ogre lords are such an important upgrade. Now, we do have Craghack back, and he does come with some troops. So even though it's going to be very costly to hire those troops back at 2,500 gold, you do get a little bit of opportunity to bolster your forces, and that doesn't feel too bad. Nice to see that we're making sure, rather than have 1 wolf so that your Craghack secondary hero can be very, very fast, we're saying no, we need every little bit of offensive firepower. Good choice there, good adjustment there, I think. But then ultimately, 2,500 gold in this early game, I mean, that could be the difference between ogres and ogre lords. And that's always very, very sad if we are potentially missing out on that. Roxana is still lying in wait like a crouching tiger, hidden dragon type of situation, where she is just ready to pounce if we wander a little bit too close. Craghack, please be careful. That 1 ore mine is flagged, as is that sawmill. I think that that's feeling pretty good for us. It looks like Craghack is opting not to use all of his movement points. He is kind of pressing forward. Maybe that was a little bit of a bait. Maybe he was trying to bait Roxana in so that Tsabu could attack Roxana. It looks like we are able to if you want them. If Apo wants to attack Roxana with Tsabu, it looks like he sure can. Craghack, though, what is he going to do? It looks like we're ignoring the halflings to the north. We are saying, no, perhaps this is a big enough army. Maybe we are going for a timing attack. Maybe Apo is saying to himself, on impossible difficulty, I must take that Necromancer Castle to the southwest. And I must take that in week 1. And if I don't, then this map is lost. Perhaps this is a calculation that he has made with his knowledge of this playthrough. Although we do see another hero here. That is Spector, and that is a knight type of hero that has the portrait of Sandro the Necromancer. So that is a special hero. Perhaps when we talk about King of Death, the scenario name that we are dealing with here. Maybe that Spectre is the King of Death. And by the way, as a quick plug for any Heroes of Might and Magic enthusiasts, this is version 1.1.0. And you know that because in the very beginning, you do see the new map editor in the bottom right corner of the starting landing page for Heroes of Might and Magic 2. Once again, it looks like, and the reason why I bring that up is because the new map editor will give you some additional opportunities to customize heroes and make some really neat stuff happen. There's some increased functionality now, whereas the original map editor just didn't have some of these new things. Not a lot of resources to play around with right now. Probably the Ogre Lords are going to be the next big purchase. It looks like the Spectre is ignoring our main hero, Tsabu. Never mind, he pretended like he was ignoring, but he's coming right back. We have a little bit, just a little bit of a lead on him. Is this enough? Is this enough? I'm at a loss. I'm really at a loss here. What are you supposed to do on a map like this? Because it's currently day 7. You would need at least 2-3 more days to get down to that Necromancer Castle in the southwest. Is there some other opportunity that I am simply unaware of? Will the Spectre chase the weakest heroes at all times? Is some metagaming? Do we know something about the AI where it will focus on weak heroes first? I don't know. And this is all new to me. Plenty of treasure here. Plenty of things that we could pick up here. What's to the southeast? I do not know along that main road. But right now it looks like we are being chased into the cracked earth, into what could be our absolute doom. And in fact, I'm a little bit concerned here. I don't see this going better. I don't see this going better. If the enemy starts off with so many troops more than you do, certainly, I think that taking barbarians is an excellent strategy because you can get some quality troops early. Oh, but then you can also, well, you can also at least get out onto the map. This is interesting. So Celia is here. She does have a few bone dragons. Maybe she took the bulk of the troops with her out of the castle. Maybe we can backdoor into this castle with 19 orc chiefs and 57 goblins, though. Those castle left turret, right turrets, and main bastille will tear your army to shreds. We do ultimately pull out a victory. It looks like it's going to be against 39 skeletons. We are going to win. Folks, I buried the lead. Folks, I completely misunderstood the point and purpose of this scenario. I didn't realize that the objective was not to defeat your enemy and overwhelm your enemy, to dominate your enemy, but to take the castle to the southwest. And that has been done. The castle of Sherman. We win when we take that castle. And so we don't have to interact with the Spectre. We don't have to interact with these other heroes. We just have to take that one castle. I am thrilled. I am ecstatic. I am often that person that will do a poor job of sticking to my objectives. And Apo, I thought that we were just going to see a very, very sad end. No. I am thoroughly impressed. And it was my misunderstanding the whole time. That little bit of context changes everything. Every single decision that we make, every single strategy that we stick to, it changes everything. It absolutely changes everything. Couple of other thoughts here. We touched on the issue with variance from map to map and scenario to scenario. I think that the early game is correct. I think that you definitely do want to get the wood, the sawmill. I think that you definitely want that ore mine just to get whatever troops you possibly can and then try and hit that timing mark. The fact that Celia took the bulk of the troops out of the castle was, of course, one of those variance moments. You're not always going to get that. And yet, if you want a really high score, if you want to kind of like speed run some of these scenarios and win and show off to your friends, that's how it's done. That's how it's done right there. So that's number one. And number two, again, good job sticking to the objectives. Number three, I would say, is knowing your map. I think that this was a good job of knowing the map. Of course, Phixfox blind playthrough, I wouldn't know where to go to overwhelm my enemies and where to find that castle that is our ultimate goal. After you've played through a map once or twice, you get to know it, get a little bit more familiar with it. It changes everything. The context, again, is massive. So I'm stunned. I'm thrilled. I love every little second of this. Apo, thank you for the submission. And I think that you get 5 gold stars. That's awesome. 5 out of 5, just in case you were wondering, in case you were saying to yourself, hey man, you only gave me 5 stars out of 10. No, 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 no. 5 out of 10. No, 5 out of 5. Great job. Apo has said that he is open to getting your feedback. So if you are willing to, if you have any things that maybe I didn't talk about or I didn't touch on, and you see for him, please, he would love to see those comments. I would love to see those comments as well. And I'm looking very, very much forward to the episode 4. But for now, I'm just going to sign off basking in the glow of this playthrough because this was informative for me. This was excellent for me. And I hope that you enjoyed as well. If you want to be featured on Phixfox Shoutcasts, please look in the description of this video. It has the ways that you can contact me. You can contact me on the FHeroes2 Discord. You can find me there, add me as a friend, and send me messages and information that way. Or you can send me an email to therealphixfox@gmail.com. Either way is just fine for me, and I just got to find a way to get your video, whether it's a YouTube, whether it's a Dropbox. You can send it via carrier pigeon with a USB drive, whatever it takes. I'd love to see your submission. So if you're wondering, if you're on the fence, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, do it. I would love to hear from you for these Heroes of Might and Magic 2 playthroughs. Folks, look after you, look after your friends, look after your family. And Apo, good job on the Black Dragon raiding and completing that scenario in record time. I will see all of you next time. My name is Phixfox. Take good care.